So, I have to fix this thing. It is Thursday afternoon. It's actually evening. It's about 5 o'clock. I have tomorrow off of school. I have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is Labor Day. I go back on Tuesday. So I have from Thursday 5 o'clock now to Tuesday morning to get this thing back on the road. There are a few really important things to do. There were two really big things I have to do before I can drive it around, even though I already have. It needs a rag joint, and I have to figure out why the brakes aren't braking correctly. Other than that, there's a bunch of little things that I'm going to be doing. I have weather seals to put in. I need to put the keys and the locks, or I need to put the door locks and the trunk lock back in so I can actually lock the car. I have to put the door panels back in. I have window guide bushings that I need to put in before I put the door panels. I have some sound deadening to put in. I have to do the headliner, put the headliner in, and then I have all the interior trim panels and the radio, and there's a lot of stuff. But right this second, it is Thursday, 5 o'clock. I am going to do the rag joint because I hate myself. So let's do that. Today, we're getting smoked.
I'm not entirely sure if it's gonna pass, but I want to get it smogged anyways because I'd like to know what I need to fix if it doesn't pass. But I've been doing some research, so I'm a little bit hopeful that this will pass. Don't mind the little stain there. I just overfilled it with coolant and it blew out. No big deal. But before we take it there, I have to start this thing up and let it warm up for a while and then drive it around for a bit to get it nice and hot so it has the best chance possible of passing smog. So let's do that now.
All right, put the key in, foot on the clutch, fuel pump goes on, starts right up. Make sure it's in neutral. All right, good. Cool. So, we're gonna let this thing idle for probably 10-15 minutes. Let it warm up quite a bit, and then we'll start driving it to the smog station. So I'll see you after and let you know what happens. Well, it is about 8 hours later, but I passed. I actually passed, if you see right there, I passed smog. So this thing is smog legal, which means I can go register it, insure it, and also have to do a title transfer, but that's besides the point. It passed. Now, it's about 8 hours later because there were some complications when I first went over there, and I actually did have to fix a few things. First biggest thing is I had to replace the relay that is underneath the dash for the fan because I got there and I couldn't even get tested because the car was idling and it started overheating like crazy. Well, turns out my fan just didn't kick on at all and wouldn't because the relay was bad. So I replaced the relay and wired up a switch so that I can manually override and turn it on, so if I'm in traffic or something like that, or whenever I want to. But the fact of the matter is, it passed really, really easily for the most part, other than hydrocarbons, which wasn't horrible, but that was the closest thing to failing if it were going to. But right now I have to go to AAA and see if I can get this car registered, insured, and title transferred. Well, I'm back from AAA and we did it. We're legally registered. We're titled, registered, insured, smogged. This car is somehow legal to drive on California roads, according to the state of California. And we should treat it as such. So I'm gonna get rid of these cobwebs. And gotta put this new nice registration tag on it, on that hot mess that hasn't been touched since 2001. But this is looking a little crusty. I think we're gonna replace that. I think I got just the thing to fix that. Because right here, buried under all this stuff, is this nice new plate. Nice new plate from 1980. Ah man, yeah. So let's switch these out. But we will put a frame on that eventually. I have a Ford Motorsport SVO frame for this thing. I just got to go find it. But until then, don't want to. We have ourselves a brand new-ish license plate and sticker, and this POS is going to sit with me in the front seat because it's for the front. There, that looks nice and a little bit newer, a little bit better. Anyways, we still have a lot of stuff to do on this car. It may be road legal, but that does not mean it is road safe. I do need to do the brakes. I got to figure out what in the world is wrong with the front brakes. The rears will lock up, fronts will do almost nothing, and the car will just slide. Well, roll and slide. We really got to take care of this seat, although, you know, this is fine for now. Just rotting. I did get these guys, and we'll be installing these. I'll probably install this one right now. These are all new gauge bulbs. I got some extra click-ins just to be safe, and hop in here. And this is to replace that. Now, this is probably a little bit bright for the dome light, maybe even too bright and too hot, but I don't really care. Oh, I gotta move a screw. Give me a sec. No, but it works. That's bright. This car is legal now. It's smogged, it's registered, it's insured, it's titled. But now we have to go about fixing all of the other little problems that there are. So it is really hard to see in there, and it's going to be very hard to get this out, but you can see down there is the steering shaft. It goes up, and the worst part about this is I really need to take the entire shaft off. It's going to make it a lot easier to do, but it is bolted way up there. You can't even see it on here. So I'm going to work on getting that bolt out. I have very little hope, but yeah, let's try it, I guess. All right, so I got the intermediate shaft out. It was kind of a pain in the butt. I actually could barely reach down there, so I had to have my brother hold the impact up here while I went under the car and held the wrench, which it was not the right size it should have been. It was 11/16 for some reason. So was everything, even though I thought it was supposed to be 5/8. But as you can see, we don't have much steering input. You can see how broken the old one was, and it's literally disintegrated and gone. So we're going to take this, I'm going to take off the bolts, drill out the rivets, put in the new stuff, clean this up a little bit because it looks like crap, and put it back in the car. So it took me a few minutes, but I got it out, and I did a quick little restoration on it. Just a quick coat of spray paint because I did have to grind it down just a touch. They were definitely a bugger to get out, and they did not want to come out right. Now, in the kit, you're supposed to put these in, and clearly they're two different sizes. Now on this car, they're the same exact size, so I don't really know what that means, but I'm just going to put it back together however I feel, because it felt like it could go either way technically. So we're just going to do that. So
eventually.
So after a bunch of pretty annoying issues, I finally got it on, and it's on there tight. I hope it's good enough. Everything seems to be pretty symmetrical. So now I'm going to put some anti-seize on here and anti-seize on the other underside of this and throw it back in the car. Let's do that.
Day 2.
So as you can tell, it's the next morning. I struggled with that rack joint a little bit last night. I ended up spending like 4 hours on it total. It fought me a little bit, and to be completely honest, it's my fault, but it's in and it's finished. Turns out it only goes a certain way,
Turns out SVO rag joints are different than regular 5-liter rag joints, and turns out the studs in the kit don't fit in the intermediate shaft that the SVO has. And I had put it in backwards originally, and then also didn't realize there's a flat spot in the steering rack coupler piece, so it slides in with a flat spot, and I didn't realize that till way later, and I had it turned wrong. So I had to take it all back out, unbolt it, turn it 90 degrees, and put it back in the car. But it was a lot of struggling and pain to find that out. So it's done now, it's in the car, it's bolted up, it works, and I no longer have any steering play. So that's the important thing. It's Friday morning, it's already, Jesus Christ, it's already hot. It's about 80 something degrees right now, and luckily I'm not directly in the sun, but I will be very shortly here. Today's big focus and goal is to fix the brakes and figure out why the brakes aren't working, because realistically the only two things that were left that made this thing reliably a driver was the rag joint and the brakes issue. I personally think that I have a bad brake booster and that I need to change the brake booster. The pedal feel is very hard, and I can lock up the rear brakes, but I have almost no input from the fronts. But the pedal is super hard, so I don't actually, I can't actually press it correctly. And the fact that it is a hard pedal is what leads me to think that I might have a clog. But so I'm probably going to bleed the front brakes because the rears clearly work. It's the fronts that have a problem. So I'll try to bleed them first probably, and then I'll probably determine whether or not it's the booster. And if it is, I think I can get one in today and I'll replace the booster, which doesn't look like fun, but it is what it is. So let's get started and let's figure out why I don't have brakes. So I can't do the brakes just yet. I don't have another person right now to help me bleed them, but I'm going to start by bleeding the fronts because those are the problems. And if that doesn't work, then we'll replace the booster. I do think the booster's broken, but until then, I actually am going to replace all of these seals. As you can see, this one is pretty useless. So I have new trunk seal and I have new door seals. So I'm going to go ahead and go replace those real quick because that'll be a nice thing to just have done and it doesn't take too long. So I'll get these seals done and then I'll move on to the next thing because there is a long list. So let's do that. Okay, I got it on and I'll probably go back and make sure it's pressed down all the way, but it's seated really nice and I got all the way back to the center. There is a touch of a gap from the angle I cut with the scissors, but I'm going to try to take some weather strip adhesive and seal it up, just put a little bit around it just to seal it up a little bit. But it is on and it fits really nice. Have to make sure that this lip that's here, you can see that that lip needs to be facing out. But this is going to be miles ahead better than what was on here. So now it's going to be sealed really well, and yeah, let's move on to the doors. Okay, so this seal is in. It's nice and new. I haven't even closed the door yet, so let's try it. Oh yeah, I don't even have to close it that hard. It closes nice and soft. And once the door panel and everything's on, it's gonna be a little bit heavier too, so it's gonna close even better. Something plastic fell out. Oh no! Window clips. Oops. Oh well. Anyways, I'm actually not going to put weather strip seal on this one because I actually do want any water that might get in there to drain out. I might put a little bit on the top just for wind sealant, but I don't want to completely seal it up just in case water does get inside. So anyways, I'm gonna do the other side and then I'll move on to the next thing. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, so every single seal is done now. I finished the driver's door. And as you can see, I just put a little tiny bit of adhesive on it just to close it up, but they fit really well. They were super easy to go on, so now I have good seals. So the next thing that I'm gonna work on, let me get in here. As you can see, the column cover is off because I have a loose ignition switch. As you can see, this commonly happens on these Fox bodies, and it's super common, but this would be a super easy install because all I have to do is undo the clips, take out the old wiring, and take this off, and then put the new one on. But as you can see, I don't know when they stopped using these, but they used tamper-proof bolts. So as you can see, there's no head or anything to these bolts. So what I've read is that some people take a punch and punch out the center to fit for a slotted screwdriver. So I'm gonna do that now, and then I'll get this ignition switch replaced, and then that'll fix that problem, and that'll be one more thing off the list. So let's go ahead and do that now. So there's definitely no right way to do this other than careful. But I have this punch. I'm going to start on the top one first. All right, I got one. Took a little bit, but once you get it, it goes pretty well. And it looks like they do have a little bit of Loctite or something. I don't know if you can see that, but there's yellow, what looks to be Loctite. So I'll set this down and try to get the other one. And this one's probably going to be a little bit less fun because of the position. Okay. Got it loose. All right, awesome. That one definitely was a little bit harder and definitely didn't get it directly on the head, but good enough. But now the ignition switch is off. So let's take off the clips. All right, that was a little rough, but as you can see, this is separated quite a bit. You can actually see it's got a springiness to it because of the mechanism. So we have our new one here, which I don't think came with new screws, and didn't. I wish it did. But it is identical. And the other thing is I had there's a connector in here that got really loose. Let's get keys out, make sure it works. Oh, the battery's disconnected, so give me a sec. All right. So I can tell it's already better, because before, if I wiggled it, it would just turn off. And I can go all the way to about right there. Yeah. Because before, the minute you is you start it from here, but then the minute you go back just a touch, it would turn off immediately and the signal would get cut off. So it's already clearly better. It's also a little bit tighter than the old one. It's definitely a little bit sharper to start the ignition. So next things up is I actually am going to take the dash out right now. So I have to take out this panel, which has 1, 2, 3 screws up here, and then it pops right out, I believe. And once the panel is out, I have access to the gauge cluster, because I'm going to take the gauge cluster out and I'm going to put these LED bulbs in them. I just got these off Amazon. They were really cheap. I think they were $7 for 10, and I got 20 just to have extra, also for other things that need lights. So I have a few lights out, so I'm just going to do this now since it's here because it doesn't take very much. So let's do that now. All right, so we have the front panel out, and I just had to lift up a little bit on the dash here just to pull the tabs out, because as you can see there's a slight indent. But other than that, it was super easy. So now I just had to take out the 4 screws that hold the dash in place and disconnect the speedometer, and then disconnect, there's 3 places that wiring. I believe it's the oil light here that screws into the gauge cluster separate, and there's one back here, and then there's one diagonally back here. So I'm gonna take it out now and then take the whole thing out. So after a little bit of struggling, we finally have the cluster out. So I'm gonna take it inside and replace all the bulbs because I really don't want to do it out here in the heat. And I'm gonna see if I can try to clean this because as you can see, it's pretty dirty. As you can see, it is, let me set that down. As you can see, it's empty in here. It was a little bit of a struggle. This was pretty easy. These clips are very, very hard, so they were hard to push, but this one wasn't too bad. The speedometer I had some serious trouble getting off because I didn't understand how, and it turns out there's a little circle like cutout. I don't know if you can see that in there. There's a little circle cut out in the bottom, and then there's this little tab right here that when it's twisted over it, it sits in, and you have to push this down and twist it. And once that's twisted out of place, the whole thing can just slide off. So that was a little bit hard to figure out. This one was a pain in the butt. I was able to get this side unclipped with a screwdriver pretty easily. This side, it took a lot more finagling and moving around, and it definitely did not want to come out. And I also forgot it has a boost gauge. So this was also on there, but that had a lot of room to wiggle, so that was easy to get out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll clean everything before I put it back in, because there is some nasty dust on this, as well as I'm gonna clean these vents while I have them out. So let's do that now. All right, so we've got the dash back in, and as you can see, it looks nice and well done, and it's clean. I cleaned the vents some more, although they probably still need some more cleaning. Yeah, they're very dusty. But we have lights. We did not have turn signal lights before. We have bright light, although it does go out. I don't know if that's how it's normally supposed to be, but it does not stay on. Anyways, we also, what else do we have? We have, I guess I could pull them out and it's, oh, well there's the light now. So I get, oh, it just went off. So it only stays on when you pull the lights out. You really can't see, but you can see the lights there. Yeah, so that's your best indication. Until it gets darker, we really won't be able to tell how much brighter they are. I ended up not changing this one, partially out of laziness, because there's 2 bulbs, but the one on this side is a different type of bulb that I don't have than this side that I do have. So I decided they both work, so let's just leave them as they are and they'll match. So it won't be that this one's brighter than this one. So I just left them. So now, just turn it back off. Let's turn the car off. And the ignition switch works quite well. But now we're gonna go ahead And since I just got these in, we're gonna go ahead and do the window bushings on each window. This doesn't seem like a super fun job, but it also doesn't seem horrible. I just have to lower the window all the way, undo the 2 bolts. There's one right there, and then there's one underneath. Pull out that thing, which is not supposed to be super fun, but I'll pull it out, the guide, and then just do a quick bushing change. They're just pushed in, and there's 2 on each side, and we'll just push them out, push the new ones in, clean up the pole and grease it up again, throw it back in, and hopefully it should be good as new. So let's do that real quick. So I've got the new window bushings in, and you probably can't, well, I guess you can see them there. They're in, and it's been greased up, and now the window goes up and down nice and easy on both sides. It was pretty easy. You do have to pry right here a little bit, and I use that orange hammer to do it. And you do have to be careful because you don't want to crack the window or, you know, shatter the window at all. So window bushings are done. Window rubber is done. Trunk rubber is done. Dash lights are done. Ignition switch is done. What else did we do? I don't know what else we did, but now we're moving on to one of the worst parts of the car. This guy, cowl panel. Now I found this and put it on a few days ago, but clearly it looks like hot garbage, because it is. And same with our windshield wipers. They're a little bit garbagey. So we're gonna go ahead and give those a quick with the good old dark color. And before we put on, nope, let's go back. But for this thing, we're actually not gonna paint this because we have something a little bit better. We have, just by chance, an NOS cowl piece. Look at the difference in color. Now I already did wash it because it was really, really dusty. And if you notice on this box, it says 1 used, 1 new, 87 to 93. Well, they're actually, I believe, 82 or whatever till 93. But this one does have a few scuff marks. I don't know if you can see those. Yeah, you can see those there. It's got some scuff marks. I'm not entirely sure if this is the NOS one or if the other one was. This one looked the nicest and it still had the nozzle piece, so I took this one. The other one had a lot more scuffs. So I'm just gonna assume this is the nice one. I'm gonna assume this is the NOS one. And so yeah, it is an actual NOS for cowl panel piece that we're gonna put on. Before we do that though, before we can slap it on, because I would really love to, we actually do have to get in here real quick and take that black spray paint and just cover that up a little bit. We don't have to do too good, but it's not horrible, but the paint that was there is peeling. And just gonna do a quick spray on it. It's not that bad. I live in the desert, so this really isn't gonna keep rusting, but I do wanna just do a little bit of preventative, and the Rust-Oleum will make it good. So I'm gonna throw a quick coat of black in there, and then we will throw that other cowl piece on. Now, when you do this, you wanna make sure you don't mask anything off so that you get all this nice overspray that's totally factory all over your nicely painted car. But it's painted, it is black now, and it will keep it a little bit from rusting. Now I definitely want to just paint over all the dirt, make sure you get overspray everywhere, don't mask anything off, be a man or a woman, whatever you want to do, I don't really care, but it's done, so does it matter? Not really. So let's take our new, or new old stock cowl panel piece. Actually, there was a little bit of, I missed a little bit of dust when I cleaned it. Got to make sure this thing's perfect, that it can go on a perfect car. Maybe not this one, but either way, looks good enough. So we'll take this and set it in there, and this is going to be really awkward because I do have to plug the windshield washer real quick, so let me do that. So plug that in. Don't even wait for anything to dry. Just, all right. Cool. Look at that. Look how nice that looks. Almost looks like a new car. If a new car had a bad paint job. Just take that off. And now we can put the screws in. Oops. Or drop them straight down in there. I'm going to go ahead and put all these screws in. And then right after that, I'm just going to throw a quick coat of paint on those. And then we'll throw them on.